Hi, good evening. Welcome to daadgalerie. My name is Matthias. I'm the curator for film and literature here at the DAD Artists in Berlin program, or the Berliner Künstlerprogramm des DAAD. And for those of you who don't know what we do, we're a residency program founded in the early 60s in West Berlin in 1963. And we host about 20 to 30 international artists for mostly a period of a year. They live with us in the city and do lots of program and exhibitions and screenings, readings at this place. The residency honors artistic achievement by offering something increasingly rare, time and freedom, and the opportunity to focus on a new work and step away from the immediate pressure of deadlines and financial constraints. And first ever fellow was Ingeborg Bachmann in 1963. Since then, many remarkable writers have joined the program, like Susan Sontag, Olga Tokarczuk, Svetlana Alexievich, Laszlo Kroschner-Horkai, to just mention the Nobel Prize winners. And also some film people, Steve McQueen, Jim Jarmusch, Claire Denis. And in addition to this residency program, we help organize and co-fund 3 artistic guest professorships. And my personal favorite is the Fischer Gastprofessorship at the FU Berlin, established in 1998 as a collaboration between the Peter Sondi Institute at FU, Holzbrink Berlin, S.Fischer Verlage, and DAD. And this summer semester, we have the great honor to welcoming Lize Spit as the 54th Fischer Gastprofessor for contemporary fiction and poetry. Lize is a Flemish writer and the author of 4 novels, and I think it's fair to say that she's one of the most exciting voices in contemporary literature today. Yeah, Lize's work is widely translated and also adapted to the screen. This will come up also tonight, and in the seminar she teaches on April 30, she gave her inaugural lecture at FU under the title "The Magician and the Surgeon: Plot as a Form of Spatial Awareness." And during her fellowship, she also teaches a seminar about literature and film adaptation. And I know many of you are attending this seminar, so this may feel like an excursion to you. Or I'm not sure, actually, maybe. Are there any students of Lize with us tonight? Oh, I see 2 people. Okay. Lize, you should have advertised this more in your seminar. Lize will be in conversation tonight with Malu Schrader. She's an editor and cultural journalist and a long-standing collaborator of Lize. They did many events together in the past, and we're very happy to have her. Together they will discuss both Lize's debut novel and her most recent book, Autobiografie meines Körpers, Autobiography of My Body, which was published in German by S.Fischer. We will also hear excerpts from the German translation done by Helga von Breuningen, and the German text will be read by the actor Jane Shirwa, whose work many of you will know from theater, television, and movies. And it's wonderful to have you as well, Jane, with us tonight. So that's all from me. Before we begin, I would like to thank a couple of people. First of all, our cooperation partners, FU, Peter Sondi Institute, Holzbrink Berlin, especially Sophie Grötsch, who did a wonderful job organizing tonight's event, and also our board member, Hans Balmes, who just stepped down from the board. This is a very private little thank you. And of course, all of you for being here. So please join me in welcoming Lize Spit and Malu Schrader, and later Jane Shirwa. Have a great time.
Yeah, thank you for this wonderful introduction words. And a warm welcome also from me. My name is Malu Schrader. I'm hosting this evening together with wonderful Lize Spit, whom I will a little bit introduce to you in detail in a second. With us is also Jane. She will read the German passages later. And Lize, as you already heard, is at the moment the S.Fischer Gastprofessur at Freie Universität Berlin. She was born in a small village in Flanders, Belgium, but now she lives in Brüssel for quite long now, I guess. Yeah. She writes books and columns. She is teaching creative writing in Brussels also. And she's one of the most famous writers in the Dutch-speaking area, I would say. Her debut novel, Und es schmilzt in German, was on top of the bestseller list for more than 1 year, which is really crazy. And it was translated into 15 languages, so it's very well known international as well, and adapted for film. All 4 books, which you can find at the book stand, are translated by Helga van Beuningen, who really did a wonderful job, I guess. And we were very happy that you also made your last book, right? Because it was not sure, because she is close to retirement, I guess.
Yeah, I think she should already have retired because her husband wants her a little bit more to have her free time.
Yeah.
But she still translated, but it was the last book of me she will translate.
Okay. So thank you, Helga, for doing it again. All the books are published by S.Fischer. Yeah, what are we doing tonight? We are speaking most time about your new book. At the end, there will be a little bit time for your questions, if you have any.
I heard that there are always questions at daadgalerie, so no pressure.
No pressure. Yeah, welcome, Lize. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Malu.
I think you arrived end of April in Berlin. How is it to be S.Fischer Gastprofessur here?
It is marvelous. I'm staying in a very quiet neighborhood, not so far from the university. I think it's called Rijnviertel, something like that. But I come from Brussels and I live there in the poorest part of the city. It's called Kuregem. That is a lot in the news because of the shootings and the drugs dealing taking place in my streets. And now I'm like living in paradise. In like such a green, nice neighborhood where there is like play gardens for the children and ice cream bars on every corner. And I'm like, I can't like
nobody
believe
is
that
burning
this exists.
something in front of your house.
No, and but I'm also on the app of my quartier in Brussels, and there even like the people who are cleaning the streets now are like striking because they don't feel safe enough to clean.
Oh, wow.
So like it's such a different situation, but I like it, and I like also the university a lot. I have never studied myself at university, so to be in like surrounded by all these young and vivid people, but also this nice building that looks a little bit like an airport. If you walk through it, it's beautiful. I really enjoy it. Yeah,
that's nice. I'm surprised that you feel it so calm here in Berlin, because I think it's not often what people say about the city, but. No,
here in Kreuzberg or in Schönberg, it's a little bit like more vivid. I would say here you have more the Brussels feeling.
Yeah.
But I don't know where are all the people in my neighborhood. Sometimes I look out the window and I think, is there something I don't know of? Like there are so many big buildings, but on the street you don't see a lot of people. So I was really like, is everyone on holiday? Or I don't know where it's like really quiet. I'm not used to that. I'm really used to having like all the shops in my street and people drink beer outside in front of the door and they like make sounds still. All these illegal pubs in my street in Brussels, like they are awake till 9 in the morning, 1 in the mornings. It's a different life, but I like it to be a little bit away from like the chaotic Brussels. It's really good for my mental state, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you were teaching the last time, but it's already a little bit time gone since you published your book in Belgium. The title is Autobiografie meines Körpers. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what is it an autobiography about a body, and what's about your book?
The book we will hear it a little bit later, starts with my mother sending me an email that she has got like the news that she has gotten a cancer that has spread. Yeah. So she sent us this news via email. So I was like standing somewhere in holiday with a flask of champagne, and then I read the email that she sent me, in which she said she was she would die, in fact. And that is the moment where I started with this book. I think it's like the book is about everything that happens after that. I didn't have a good bond with my mother, and when I heard she would like die or not live for a long time, I started to approach her because I really didn't want her to die, and then me having like this feeling of guilt that I didn't try my better to reach her. So I started writing about how our family fell apart, how we got closer to each other, how I tried to approach my mother. But after some time, I felt that there was something in our bodies that was not working right. Like we didn't have the intimacy between us to touch each other. And when I was visiting my mom more frequently, I really felt like I was discussed by her a lot. And that had something to do with what was inside my body, how my body remembered her as a mom during my youth, and we will surely talk about it more, but my mom was an alcoholic. She also died from esophagus cancer, and so I never remembered her as someone safe to be around with. And that is what my body remembered of her, and I really wanted to get closer to her before she would die. So I did a research on what was inside my body, what parts of my body remembered her, to try to override it, to understand it, why my body reacted on her appearance, our physical appearance. And I really wanted to understand it, to try to overcome it and be able to touch her before she would die, because I really think we should, if you say goodbye to someone else's body, how can you do it without touching it as well? Yeah. And that was like the goal of writing, was being able to touch her before she would be gone forever. And that is I think it's a plotless book, because I give a course about plot in literature. So this is a plotless book, but I think the reader really wants to know, is this daughter going to achieve a physical approach to her mother? And that's why it's called Autobiography of My Body, because I'm really searching what is the story of my body in relation to my mom.
It's a very personal book, maybe, or I would say the most personal book you wrote until now. But the people in the book are personages we already know from your very first novel, or some of them, like the mother with the alcohol abuse, and the father, who is also a very special person. Are these two books for you connected with each other?
Yeah, in my debut, that was the first experience I had with writing, and it's also a coming of age. So when I had to give to fill in my characters, I couldn't think of a mother who would not have this alcohol addiction, because this was the kind of mother I knew the best. And it still sometimes strikes me now to get to know mothers, because when I was a child, I saw other mothers than my mother, but I couldn't really understand why my mother was a little bit different than theirs, and why I got along better with the mothers of friends than with my own mother. But now when I see friends of me becoming a parent themselves, now I start to understand my own mother, but in a different way. But as I was writing my debut, I was 24, and I got out of my parents' house 6 years before, so I couldn't think about someone else, some other interpretation of a mom than my own mom. So that's why I put her a little bit in the character, and also some things of I think where my language started in my youth years, they also were encapsulated in the book. But I would say it's more fiction than autobiographical, my first book. But then there are things now when I write about my own life that really interfere a little bit with my debut because there are things in that book that were autobiographical, but that I sometimes like reread a little bit or I change it a little bit. But now a reader can, if you read both books, you can see like what the autobiographical parts of the melting were. For example,
was it difficult for you afterwards? That this was to see that?
In the beginning, I thought I will not show these things in my autobiographical book because then readers can really see, that is something she didn't invent, that is something that really happened. But
I always knew it.
But then I thought, it has to be in there because it's. I can give an example later, but it has to be in it because it's part of who I became and. It was also in my debut novel because I could not write about this story without putting it in. It was the first time that I find language and that I find a story. And there is like in the scene, the book, The Melting starts with the dad who shows his daughter like the knot he has knotted in his room because he will hang himself. And he says like, I have knotted it and it's there, but the fact that I am showing it to you means that I will not use it anymore because I shared my murder plans with you, so now I won't do it. And that is something that really happened in my youth when I was going to college and I left my parents' house to go live in Brussels in a weekend when I came home. That is something my father did. He showed me where he would like hang himself. But he said, I showed you, so I don't think I will do it. So it was a sort of emotional manipulation because he couldn't be alone and he found it hard that I left to go live in the city. But I could not leave it out of my debut because it was in the years I was starting to write, it happened. But also if I look back at my body and why it is sometimes so, why it works, how it works, and why there is this much of disgust and anxiousness for my parents, it has to be in it. So I could not leave it out. So it's bizarre that some people know that you can see also how writing works and sometimes why some scenes can be left out of the story, not in a fictional story, but also not in an autobiographical story. Yeah,
maybe we will also come back to this a little bit later. But now I would ask Jane to read the first passage that you know a little bit about what we are talking here. It's the real beginning of the book. As Lize told you, she got an email from her mother with the information that she has cancer. The mail was for you and your 3 siblings, right? Let's listen to the first part.
Es ist Mitte Dezember. Über uns hängen Möwen unbeweglich in der Luft. Ihre eleganten weißen Leiber leuchten in der untergehenden Wintersonne. Der Wind macht die ganze Arbeit. Die Vögel brauchen sich nur treiben zu lassen. In meiner Manteltasche vibriert das Handy. Habt ihr Mamas Mail schon gelesen? Schreibt Siska in der WhatsApp-Gruppe Bruder und Schwestern. Ach, anscheinend gibt's wieder eine Mail, sage ich zu Rob, der mir die Flasche abnimmt. Immer wenn meine Eltern sich melden, da ist etwas in mir, das herausklappt wie ein Boxball aus der Kirmes, aus dem Automaten, nach dem eine Münze eingeworfen würde, bereit, verdroschen zu werden. Ich klicke auf Eingang und tatsächlich eine ungelesene Mail mit dem Betreff Mitteilung. Sofort wird mir übel. Die letzte Mail meiner Mutter ging vor einem Monat ein, irgendwann Mitte November. Auch sie kam plötzlich und ohne einen richtigen Betreff. Hallo ihr alle, in der Anlage ein Geständnis. Grüße, Agnes. Darunter ein angehängtes Word-Dokument mit dem Titel Mitteilung, in dem meine Mutter beichtete, schon seit einigen Monaten ein Verhältnis mit Walter zu haben. Sie hätte lieber gewartet, um es uns zu erzählen, bis sie uns mal zusammensehe, was pro Jahr nur wenige Male geschieht. Aber Fred, sie nennt unseren Vater immer beim Vornamen, habe verlangt, dass sie uns möglichst rasch informieren müsse. Sie sei Fred gegenüber in dieser Sache von Anfang an ehrlich gewesen, es hätte noch nicht allzu viel Streit deswegen gegeben und sie werde auf ihren neuen Geliebten nicht verzichten, sondern einen Weg suchen, beide Beziehungen zu kombinieren. 40 Jahre Ehe, schrieb sie, wirft man auch nicht gleich weg. Sie und Fred seien in Paartherapie. Trotz der üblichen, trockenen, distanzierten Art und Weise, in der diese Mitteilung abgefasst war, ich höre noch oder oder auch nicht, was ihr dazu meint, war es keine schockierende oder schlechte Nachricht gewesen. Im Gegenteil. Ich gönnte es beiden, voneinander befreit zu werden. Dieses Mal lautet der Betreff der Mail Mitteilung und die angehängte Word-Datei heißt Speiseröhre. Dieses eine Wort sagt mir schon genug. Die Übelkeit lässt sich bequem nieder und sie weiß, sie wird bleiben dürfen. Sie habe schon eine Weile etwas in ihrer Speiseröhre gespürt, schreibt Mutter in der Mail. Und eine Gastroskopie vor 3 Wochen habe das Vorhandensein einer Geschwulst bestätigt. In der Zwischenzeit seien Gewebeproben entnommen und Scans gemacht worden. Gestern sei sie beim behandelten Arzt gewesen, um über die Befunde zu sprechen. Die Nachricht sei nicht so angenehm. Die Geschwulst sei bösartig. Man habe auch 3 Geschwülste an anderen Stellen festgestellt, im Magen, am Hals, in der Kehle. Es müsse noch untersucht werden, ob sie etwas damit zu tun hätten. Wenn es keine Metastasen seien, dann werde es eine lange und belastende Behandlung, aber eine Heilung sei noch möglich. Und wenn eine oder mehrere Geschwülste Metastasen seien, könne man nur noch wenig tun. Sie lasse uns dies, schreibt sie, per E-Mail wissen, weil es für sie eine sichere Möglichkeit sei, etwas zu übermitteln und weil sie wolle, dass Siska, Jules, Tini und ich es alle 4 gleichzeitig und auf die gleiche Weise erführen. Außerdem, Fred und sie würden sich scheiden lassen. Was Schreiben ist, die weiße Blutzelle. Das schädliche Partikel bekämpfen, indem man es einkapselt, jedes merkwürdige oder nicht so kontrollierende Gefühl in Sprache einschließen und langsam abtransportieren. Nicht mit großen, abstrakten Worten, Jahreszeiten, Gezeiten, Ablehnung, Tod, Schmerz, Schuldgefühl, da rutscht noch zu vieles durch, sondern mit konkreten Punkten, so klein und so zusammenhängend wie möglich. Möglichst dicht beieinander, kein Zwischenraum zwischen den Punkten lassen, sprach die Lehrerin, die sich über uns beugte, als wir in der Grundschule mit Nadel und Stechkissen Figuren aus Karton lösen mussten, indem wir entlang der gepunkteten Linie einstachen. In den Sekunden nach dieser Mail muss Folgendes geschehen. Die gepunktete Linie muss festgelegt werden. Ich bin keine Tochter, die eine Mail liest. Ich bin die Schriftstellerin, die die Tochter dabei beobachtet, wie sie die Mail liest.
Ja, die gepunktete Linie muss festgelegt werden. The dotted line has to be determined. As a daughter and an author, you made kind of a contract with yourself. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. When my mother became sick, I thought, because I'm also writing every week or every 2 weeks a column for the newspaper, and it's about my life, about things I experienced. So I really thought, okay, how can I manage this to be at the same time a daughter and a writer? Because I have with my mom this bizarre connection that we never can be honest to each other. I'm more honest in my writing and giving interviews for audiences as tonight than I had ever been in talking with her, because there was something in between us that made it impossible to be clear about what we were feeling or thinking. But I thought, like, okay, if I want to say goodbye to her, if I want to get closer to her, I really have to be a daughter and not a writer, because she feels betrayed by the fact that I'm writing, I think, because I can be talk more openly with strangers than with her. So I really made a contract with myself with some rules, like I won't write about her in my columns. I won't write about her disease if she's not okay with it. I will send it to her before I will put it in my columns. But yeah, it was really as if I was making a contract between the writer and the daughter, so the daughter could also have a part of the mother without the writer taking it away to the writing and to make it into literature. But it was not so easy, I have to say. It's a bit like being a doctor and seeing someone fading on the street. Like you cannot respond. So if your mother is dying, as a writer, there is so much in it that you can observe. And I have found it so difficult not to be in it as a writer, also because it keeps me away from feeling things. as if a little bit like Annie Ernaux said, like writing is a real life and living the life is just like the prequel to living, because writing is living itself. And for me, it's a little bit the same, that when I write about something, I can really feel it, I think, and in the moment itself in life, it's a little bit too much to really grasp it. So I understood my mother better while writing about her disease, and I was with her, I think. So yeah, it was not easy to keep always this difference between the daughter and the mother. And I remember, for example, the first time my mother was in hospital because she was not doing well, and she asked me to go to her house to get some pajamas and underwear, because she left with an ambulance, so she didn't have the time. And then I entered her house for the first time, because it was not the house where I grew up. They moved afterwards, and it was the first time that I was like in her house alone without her being there. I don't know if someone already did this sometimes, being in the house of a parent alone without them being there. And I could like watch into how she organized her life, and I was really touched by it. But in the same time, I was wanting to make pictures of it, because the writer was like, take a picture of that detail and of that detail, because then later on
Not
you
to
can
forget.
watch the pictures. She has a lot of poetry in her toilet, so I was photographing like, what is she reading when she's on the toilet, and how is she like organizing her bathroom. And there were such like bizarre details that I found in her house that I took these photographs, and I really felt like I was like a journalist, like doing bad things in her house. So sometimes there was a line I never
Like
crossed.
a paparazzi.
Yeah. There was one line I never crossed, and I think some other writers would cross this line, and that's that I never like arranged conflict, so I had something to write about, because in the process of dying, sometimes there are also periods where nothing really changes, when nothing happens, when she was just being sick, but we didn't have any good conversation, or I didn't get closer to her, and there was not much happening. And some writers would say, okay, let's throw something in, so I have something to write about, but I never did that. I always like, the daughter was in the first place, and then the writer could take things to write about, but never like the writer would never try to manipulate the story.
Yeah. So that was kind of your dotted line also.
Yeah, that was really important. Also, I think she died. I think she lived for 1 year and 10 months after she had sent the mail, and then there was. At the last months of her life, I really thought like, if there is no really something changing now, if we don't get a bit closer to each other, it will not be a good end for my book. Like the book will be, as you look at it as a plot, it will be like, there will not be the spanningsboog. I don't know how it's like the plot line. It will not be like a good one. But then my mother went to the palliative center, and she got like the right amount of morphine and other medications. And then she started talking, and there was also the writer who thought, yes, this is what the book needs. But also there was the daughter who was like, I'm so happy that this happens for the daughter. So they were always with each other, like an angel and another angel, because I wouldn't say the writer is like the devil, but two angels on my shoulders.
But did you feel guilty sometimes for this kind of sort?
Yeah, of course. It's always like, writing is how do you say, is betraying life. Yeah, for me, that's if you write about the people you know, you steal them from what is the most important in this relationship. It's the intimacy. And intimacy between two people is very different when you write about it, and you use this intimacy to get close to someone, but also to observe someone. How closer you get, how easier it is to observe someone and analyze someone. And so for me, if I write things that are personal, it's always feeling like betrayal. So the fact, and also the fact that my brothers and sisters were also saying goodbye to my mom, and we all have another relationship with her. I think every parent has every child has a different parent. So if a mother dies, in our case, there are four mothers dying, and I didn't want to to press my vision of our mom as the only mom that existed, because there is a book, she's there in book form, and they didn't write a book about her, so it's only my mom who now is like literature, like put into literature, and I feel sad for their mom that there is not a book about their mom. So yeah, I often like I have a lot of difficulties with the power you have as a writer and the power of language that gives so much, like that can shape a memory of someone. Because at the end, it's like a picture. The things that you don't take pictures of are easily forgotten. So also the power of a picture, but the power of literature is
of keeping something.
Yeah, of keeping something. Yeah.
I asked myself, because in the book you show a lot about the speechlessness in a family, the several layers of that. So between the parents, between the children and the parents, and also between the siblings. But with the book, you found a way to express yourself and to use language for that, which was difficult in your family to find a language. But was it also not just that what you explained to express yourself, but also to get along with the grief about your mother that is dying? Does it help you with that, to get along?
Yeah, I think writing is always, even no writer will admit it, is always a form of therapy. Because that is the core of therapy, is putting things into words and then seeing them more clearly for yourself, or feeling what they do with you when you pronounce them. But it's like not speaking these words out loud, it's writing them down. So it's like a lesser form of therapy, I think, because it's often when you speak it out loud in front of someone else that is like the core of psychological therapy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was something in me that helped me grieving, because I could spend time with her, not only during daytime when I saw her once a week. I visited her and then I spent the day with her, but also when she slept at night, I was like, okay, now she's sleeping, she's not of any use, because I could not call her. Not of any use, it's just that I could not try to get to know her better when she was sleeping. And I was also happy for her that she had some time sleeping, because she was feeling a lot of pain. So at night, when I knew she slept, I could write also about her, and also I was conversating with her just on my own terms, and that was also bringing me closer to her. So I talked, like, I think so much more because I was writing about her than I could if I only would able to do it as a daughter and waiting till she wanted to talk with me. So yeah, I spent so much time with her in those 2 years, day and night. I was busy with her. It's like I spent 10 years with her in the end instead of 2 years, and that made it easier to say goodbye, I think. But then there was the first part of the questions about silence in the family and how should I also tell something about it, or was it not a question?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
I don't know, like maybe I'm talking too much.
No,
like
it's fine. It's your evening.
Yeah, but
no, it's fine.
But in our family, there is like, my parents were always having the idea that they were open and they saw themselves as like people of culture, and they went, they read books, they went to theater and they saw themselves as like, I don't know, like outgoing. But then there were some things at our home that were so much in the taboo, and we didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about feelings. We didn't talk about the fact that my mom had this alcohol problem, but you could see it. She would like, if we go home from a party in the village, she would fall with her bike, or she would like throw up, or she'd throw up blood, for example. So as a child, you knew like some things are not fine here, and but we never talked about it. And my parents, in between themselves, they were not talkative as well. My father was. And he came from the Netherlands, and the Netherlands people who are Dutch are easier in like finding their words. And my mom came from the west of Flanders, and they are really known for keeping everything inside. Okay. And so in their relationship, there was this bizarrely dynamic that grew like disproportionate as longer as they were together, that my father really wanted my mother to speak, and she didn't dare because she was afraid to say not the right words.
Yeah.
So that's why in the end she only dared to write something down in a Word document and add it to a mail and then send the mail, because in this relationship everything you said could be abused against you. That was like the strategy of my father. If they would have a fight, he would write down what she was telling and then use it back later, like telling, like, last time you said this and now you say something else. Or in the morning when we left for school, sometimes he left like printed texts on the table, sometimes about depression, to tell us like your mom is depressed, but we didn't talk about it. Or he would like print out things about alcohol abuse, but we never talked about it. It was just laying there, we could see it, but then no one dared to ask questions. So there was...
And also you as children didn't dare to ask what's going on.
No,
with that.
because
No.
they make you very clear that it's like something you can't touch.
Yeah.
And also my mom, she really didn't want us to talk about it, and I think we didn't dare to ask questions. I don't know how it works in the dynamic, but children are so loyal to the rules that they are given. If
Yeah.
you I watched the movie now I don't remember his name, but Dogtooth is the movie from the Greek filmmaker, I think. And there is like this family who are I like the movie because they learn to the children, two parents, and they learn to their children not the right words for some objects. So at the table, these children ask like, can I have the scissors? And then they hand like the salt. And so they are really manipulating their children into using another language than what is known. And so these children, when they go out of the house, they are like not living in the same reality.
Yeah.
And I think that is also like the loyalty of children makes that if they learn you that the glass is a scissors, you accept that it's like
Yeah.
that. You don't ask questions because you have no idea it's different outside. And I think that is like, it took us so many years to, as children, to gather together our story, to get it together. We were with 4 children, so once we were outside and we went to college, my sister called us all together with the therapist, and she said, I think we should talk about some things from back home. And that's the moment where we first together talked about it. So I was 24 and she was 26 at that moment. And that was the first time we talked about it like with each other, like there are some things going on at home.
Yeah.
And then we went back to our home to tell our parents. We had this conversation with the children, and we said to them, like, we are really worried and we want you to take action because we know that there are like problems in this relationship and also alcohol problems. And then they reacted like, I don't want to talk about it. And that was that.
That was the end of conversation.
So we felt
Okay.
it all our life. That was no...
Yeah.
Because I think she didn't want to give away this secret of how an addiction works, because if you talk about it, you have to fix it, or you have
For
to
yourself,
do something
also
about it
for
for
yourself,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah.
So she kept it like she kept the big thing invisible in the room,
Yeah.
just because she needed it so much to stay alive. I think also.
Maybe it's also a big question of feeling ashamed
Yeah,
by a
for sure.
partner who does not support you, but make you even more feeling ashamed.
Yeah.
And I think it's the perfect link for the next reading passage, because you will see. It's a family situation, yeah, and maybe I can give a little bit context for you, because the alcohol addiction is a big thing for your mother, but not only for your mother, to be clear, also for the both of the parents. But your mother tried several times to get to overcome this addiction. And in this passage we will hear now, she comes at home from a kind of a clinic, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some family time. Yeah.
Zwischen der ausgedünnten Koniferenhecke sehen wir Papas blauen Firmenwagen durch unsere Straße fahren. Autotüren werden zugeschlagen, klapp, klapp. Wir versammeln uns ein wenig unbehaglich in der Küche. Hey Mama, willkommen, hallo. Du bist eher still. Bewegst dich auf eine Weise, die ich nicht kenne. Wärst du ein Hund, so würde ich sagen, dass du plötzlich einer anderen Rasse angehörst. Wärst du ein Radiowecker, dann vielleicht, dass man deine Antenne reingeschoben hat. Du hast eine kleine Tüte mit Geschenken dabei. Für jedes Kind hast du im Geschenkshop des Krankenhauses etwas ausgesucht oder während eines kurzen Ausflugs in der Geschäftsstraße. Du hast 3 Päckchen dabei und erkennst erst jetzt, dass wir 4 Kinder sind. Mein Geschenk hast du vergessen. Und auch unsere Namen sind in weiter Ferne. Aber das finden wir nicht schlimm, Mama. Diese Verwirrtheit dient einem guten Zweck und wir setzen uns zu Tisch und bemühen uns, es gemütlich zu machen. Anfangs werden wir die Gemütlichkeit spielen, danach wird die Gemütlichkeit das Ruder übernehmen. Schau nur, wie wir alles genauso vorbereitet haben, wie es sich gehört, so wie du es machst. Wir haben dir all die Jahre sorgfältig zugeschaut. Du hättest dich nicht unsichtbar wähnen müssen. Wir beherrschen alles Nötige, das Putzen und Bügeln und Abwaschen. Wir beherrschen es aber nicht so, dass wir meinen, wir kämen ohne dich aus. Nein, also wir wollen dich immer noch zurückhaben. Und obwohl es für Erfrischungsgetränke und Wasser ist, haben wir auch die schicken, hochstieligen Gläser hervorgeholt. Wir wollen dich nicht bevormunden, indem wir so tun, als würdest du allein schon beim Anblick eines Stielglases in die Versuchung kommen, rückfällig zu werden. Du musst es lernen, denn später, wenn du wieder nach Hause kommst und es wieder Gemeindefeste gibt oder Kommunion, dann wird es überall Stielgläser geben. Und es geht gut. Kein Problem. Du sagst nicht viel, du schaust ein bisschen dösig, aber nicht weggetreten. Das Raclette-Gerät ist aufgeheizt. Schau, das Lichtchen geht aus. Wir können loslegen. Fleischstücke braten. Guten Appetit allerseits. Ja, guten Appetit allerseits. Wer will Cola und wer will Wasser? Es gibt mit und ohne. Mit, aber auch ohne. Ist lecker. Und wir trinken auf ansteckende Weise aus unseren Gläsern, bis plötzlich eine andere Flasche in Papas Hand auf den Tisch kommt. Er schwenkt sie vor deinen Augen hin und her, zieht den Korken raus, schenkt sich ein, gluck, gluck, gluck. Aus dem Hals gluckert das Zeug in sein Glas, dieser flüssige blaue Fleck. Es ist kein kleines Glas. Ihr schenkt hier nie zaghaft ein. Und dann bewegt sich die Flasche über den Tisch. Möchtest du auch, Agnes? Unsere Körper fokussieren sich alle auf diesen einen Punkt, auf deine Antwort. Nein, sagst du. Wir essen weiter und die Zeit vergeht langsam. Die Zeit, die weiß, dass sie benutzt werden wird, dass sie einen Vorwurf darstellen wird, anstatt einer Erinnerung, auch wenn sie noch nicht ganz genau weiß, von wem der Vorwurf erhoben werden wird. Eure Ehe, die ist wie eine zu schlaff aufgeblasene Luftmatratze. Wenn der eine aufsteht, sinkt der andere plötzlich mit den Schultern auf den Boden und darum hindert ihr einander ständig daran, auszusteigen. Gluck, 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 da fließt der Wein wieder in Vaters Glas. Und die Flasche bewegt sich in deine Richtung. Sicher, dass du nichts willst, Agnes? Sicher. Und niemand tut was. Niemand sagt was, keiner von uns Vieren traut sich, die Situation zu korrigieren. Gluck, 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 gluck. Und das schweigende Zuschauen schmerzt so sehr, dass ich verschwinde. Ich werde nichts von den Fleischstückchen und dem Gemüse kosten. Ich werde mich später an den Rest des Abends kaum erinnern, als hätte ich ihn unter Wasser zugebracht und wäre nur ab und zu, um Atem zu schöpfen, an die Oberfläche gekommen. Und nicht nur die Angst, du hättest nur 2 Neins und würdest noch ein 3. Mal gefragt. Letztendlich wirst du genug Neins für die ganze Flasche haben, sogar für 9 enthaltsame Monate, sondern auch das Bewusstsein deiner Einsamkeit. Erst Jahre später haben wir alle 4 unsere Erinnerung zusammengelegt, in dem Versuch, diese Einsamkeit in Worte zu fassen. Und nicht nur deine Einsamkeit, sondern auch die von Papa und die unsere, von uns Vieren, die mitschuldige Zeugen der impliziten Gewalt waren, die ihr euch immer wieder gegenseitig antatet. 9 Jahre nach diesem Abend werde ich zigmal gefragt werden, wann ich wusste, dass ich Schriftstellerin werden wollte. Und ob ein Schriftsteller als Schriftsteller geboren wird oder nicht. Und bei keinem dieser 100 Male habe ich die Wahrheit gesagt. Nie bin ich zu jenem Weihnachtsabend des Jahres 2005 zurückgegangen. Nie habe ich erzählt, dass es da entstand. Beim Fehlen der richtigen Worte zur Entkopplung der Situation, bei der Unmöglichkeit, den Mut aufzubringen, etwas zu sagen. Und während dieses ganzen unerträglichen Schweigens war da das Aufziehen jener kleinen Feder in meinem Rückgrat, fester und fester, damit ich einmal so weit über die Oberfläche hinaus würde springen können, dass ich nie wieder nach unten zurückgesogen werden könnte, dass ich nie mehr nicht die richtige Sprache finden würde.
Dankeschön. This passage is killing me every time.
Oh. Sorry.
I think what we see is really what you talked about the last minutes, about this behavior in the family. And as a writer, you choose a way to describe it, not just by talking as the adult Lize, but also you give the child Lize a voice. And this is not the only passage, but it's also with diary entries, for example, and lists you made as a kid. Why and when did you decide to work like this in the book, to mix these perspectives?
Yeah, there are 3 types of writing in the book. There is the I think the more in a like, how do you say, like I'm analyzing what is happening in the 2 years my mother is getting sicker and dying. So it's like really kind of a report about it. And then there is like the research I do, like looking into my own body and looking at the ages of the body and what happened at certain ages, like with disturbing my intimacy for my mom and my body remembering her as something I should have been afraid for. And I wrote these parts sometimes with the language that I had on that point. You can feel in this part, it's like a little bit written in a childish way, because I was feeling, I was not like 7 at the time, I was 14 or 16, I think, but still I wanted to give like an idea that the body is not really adult at that time. And then there in the part is diaries that I really kept when I was 10 years and 11 years in 1999 and 2000. And I did not expect to include them, but I read them during the writing process of the book. And I read them with the themes of my book in mind, like the themes were mother, body, diseases, and like saying goodbye to someone. And then I was like a little bit perplexed by the fact that the things that this child from 10 years was writing were the same things that the book is like talking about. All these things were already there in my diary when I was 10 years old, that my mom was sick, that she was like having pain on her esophagus because she always had like these burnings and also like her stomach was being inflamed. And so I am really focused on her and on her body, and I want to be sick myself because I want to get close to her. So I write a lot about myself feeling sick and having like pimples and things, and I really wanted to be sick, I think, to have also a body that was not really working.
To make the same experiences.
Yeah, to feel close to her. But also in this book there is like, you can see a child struggling with attachment problems because like saying, if you don't have a parent that helps you put your how's it called, the wortels, like the things that grow into the earth,
the roots.
The roots. If you can't like put them deep into the soil, you need to find other ways to grip yourself onto to keep on growing up. And so I used a lot of my, I would say like these are like the roots that grow in the air roots. I used a lot of these to keep growing in the good way. And these persons I hold on to were for mostly in the beginning of my life, like the parents of friends, but also teachers at school. But what happens when you you choose someone else as a parent, they never stay. So you have to say goodbye every year to a teacher because you have to go to a next class, and it was
even when you go home in the after school, no?
Yeah,
so in the evening,
you have a lot of loss. Everything is losing. You are losing all the time. And I can feel like I write in this diary a lot. Like I will go on a summer camp. I'm not looking forward because I will miss mommy and daddy when I'm there. Oh no, 3 days till summer camp, 1 day. And on the summer camp, I'm missing them the first day. And then I'm like, oh wow, it's very nice here. And then I'm home from summer camp. And then I'm like the whole month I'm missing the monitors of the camp. So it was a lot I wrote about missing people. And I thought, I can like give a recap from this diary, like in the book, because I thought, it makes sense. But then I thought maybe the reader should like make this analysis themselves. And so I included like really the diaries of my childhood. I put them in like without changing anything. I even like the faults in the writing, because I was 10 years old. I sometimes I just wrote words phonetically because I didn't know how to write the name. So it has something funny as well. I think it gives some lightness in the book, and also because, and that's not really nice to laugh with it, but still it's a bit funny that we as children, we all got like one sort of animal. We could choose what is your animal, and then you would get that animal. And I took guinea pigs, but my parents, they bought them like in this shop alongside the roadway. It was called the Cat & Co. So, but the animals that were there were already sick. So I had like in these 2 years of diaries, you can like watch 8 of my guinea pigs die. And then I would get another one and it died. And then I got another one. So it's always losing also these animals and giving them names. And then the next day, oh no, he's dead. And then, so it's like, it gives a little bit of, I think also, of comic relief, but it's also a sad sort of comic relief because, it's not really, it's not a vegan book. I have to say there are a lot of animals dying. Yeah.
Okay, how shall I make the link from the guinea pigs back to your mother now? I'm not quite sure.
No, I can. Should I talk a little bit more?
No, it's fine. But I think there are also like, beside these diary passages, you have some passages where you really address your mother. And I think that's my interpretation. This was driven by the hope to finally talk with each other and to make contact, real contact, maybe in the, I don't know, not the first time in your life because you were connected very deep before you were born already, but you know what I mean? Like kind of reconnect to this former bonding.
Yeah, that is what I do. The parts that I write, remembering my body, are all written in the second person. So I write it pointing towards her. Like I say, like you were there, and like it's really written for her. And these were also the parts that I would write at night. So at daytime, I would mostly write the parts that are more like about her illness. And then at night, I would start writing about the body because she was sleeping, and it felt like I was still telling her things without her knowing it. Yeah. And also at night, it's easier to be in this night modus. You I don't know, some people maybe have the same, that at night it's easier to get in an ruse, like to get into, as if you are drunk but without drinking. You get like just in this
it's a special mood sometimes.
Yeah, there is like the night mood, and and I would often like write a lot, and then in the morning I could even not remember what I wrote down from within my body, and then I would feel very ashamed reading it again. But still, I kept it in the book because I thought, it's in there, and I want to put it next to the body of my mom because maybe there is like something in it that helps me understand why I feel as I do when I see her. And I think telling this to my mom, I think she knew a lot, but she could not talk about it.
But did you sometimes feel the urge to tell her or to confrontate her with things really gone wrong?
But she knew, because she felt so guilty
Yeah.
about how our youth was going. And when I was leaving the house to go to Brussels, my mom once sent an email that she said sorry for everything she did to us. And then she cleaned the house and she gave us everything back, like all the pictures, all the drawings we made as children. She gave my birth certificate. She gave my, like, the thing that was around my wrist when I was born. She all gave it back, like a little bit like if she was saying sorry for the mom I was, and here you have everything, and now we stop, like, let's put a cross over it, something like that. And I think I mailed her like, okay, it was not all bad, and like I'm really grateful for what you did to me, and I like wrote her in a mail the things I was grateful for, but then she never could forgive herself, and when she was dying, she found it. The thing, if you die and if you die, you have to take space because you can die like without having a body. But she wanted to stay so small because she felt so guilty and ashamed about the things she had in life, and also about who she was. That she was not easy to love because she didn't love herself, and that was till the end of her days. That was also keeping us from getting closer to her because she didn't let us come closer because she thought she wasn't worth our love. And I think that was it changed a little bit in the end of her life. I also, like, people who read the book will see how it goes, but should I talk about it or should we leave it? Like, I don't know how many time
I just thought it's maybe then it's difficult to be angry with someone who behaves like that, what you described now.
Yeah, and I was not angry. I think this book, there is a lot of love in it. There is no anger in it, I have to say. Sometimes I would want her to be able to read it because then she would have felt how much I loved her. And my sister, the week before she died, or maybe 2 days before she died, she asked my mom, like, do you believe that we love you? And she said, I still find it hard to believe. But we were there, like, all the time at her bed, spending time with her, and still she was feeling like, do I deserve this or not? And then when she was like in the last week of her life, because she was planning to do like a euthanasie. She didn't made her own euthanasie. She died before it, but she was planning to die. So we could plan her funeral already. So that was nice because she could really say us what she wanted. And she never said what she wanted in life. We never knew. But for her funeral, she was really like, I want this and I want that. And she said, I don't want you to send a letter to anyone. Just like... do it in a mail. That's enough. Don't make too much fuss.
Mail was her medium.
And then I was like, but Mom, don't you think we should send that letter to your own mother and to your brothers? Like, don't you think?
With a
and
nice
then she
paper.
said, okay, they can have a letter on paper. And then we started like, okay, and would you not want to already read what people will say at your funeral? Because I can ask them if they write it down, so you can now read what they will have to say about you. Because the only thing I find so disturbing about funerals is that there are so many nice things said about the people
and
who are dead,
never heard
but they haven't heard them. It's like for who like just had said this like a week before, and then it would have had like.
I saw a Japanese film where they make kind of a rehearsal for their own funeral. So that people can hear it once.
But it's nice.
Yeah, and I like the idea.
I gathered all these letters from her friends and family, and I printed them out very big because she couldn't like see at the end very well.
Yeah.
So she had all these papers on the side of her bed, and she could not read them all because she was very tired. But she read them like in parts, and. In the beginning, she said, I don't want anyone to visit me at the palliative center. Okay. And then she started reading the letters. And then she was, I want to see my brother. And maybe my mom also has to come because she read that they loved her and that they had to say nice things about her. And then at the end, like the last week of her life, it was like one big reunion with all the people that loved her in a way. And she opened up and she... once called me in the middle of the night. I remember, and her voice was so small. And then she said, if I would have known people loved me, I would have had a whole different life. And that's like one of the last things she said. And that is so sad. But still, I think that is the most beautiful thing, that before dying she knew she was loved, and she could feel people wanting her to visit her and to say goodbye and to cry next to her bed. And so I think she was forgiven, and she maybe also
She had a little
herself
idea for herself to do that.
yeah. So, but it came to, I would have like wanted to have that like 50 years ago, before I was born, that she would know this, and then we also would have had a total different life, I think.
It would have changed a lot, maybe.
Yeah.
You tell a lot of very private things in your book about you, but also about your family. And you already said that just one of 4 mothers was dying, like your sibling didn't write books about that. But what happened after the book was published with your family? Was it a good moment? Was it a very difficult moment? Did you show them everything before?
With my brothers and sisters, I agreed, because I asked them a lot of questions during the writing process.
Yeah.
I even did an interview with my sisters to ask about how they felt in their body and things like that. But then the moment I told them about the book and that it was an autobiographical book, they were really mad at me, because they had something like, but when it's a novel or a fiction, we can hide behind the fact that it's maybe invented or anything.
Yeah.
But now everyone will know that it's about us as well and about our family. And so I made an exception, and I sent them the manuscript before even giving it to the correction person at the publishing house, so we could change anything without having to pay a lot to the again to the persons publishing it. But and then we had really a reunion about the book. So they came at my house, and I was really scared about what they would say, because if they would say, we don't want you to publish this, then I would have had to choose between being a sister and the writer, and I would have made the decision to still publish it, even they were against it. And then it was really funny, because my brother, he only had read the 100 first pages of the 300 pages that I gave him, and he came in and he said to me, Lize, this is not a book. I think the publishing house doesn't dare to tell you because they feel sad for our mom, but this is not a book, it's just our life. And so I said, but readers read it as a book. It's like, this is how literature works, it's literature. So but he couldn't get his head around the fact that people would want to read the things that had happened to us. So we had a whole conversation about what literature is, and then my sisters were more like, okay, but first, can we do this to our father? Because he's also a character, and he's portrayed sometimes as a really manipulative, aggressive partner. And that was also who he was in the relationship with my mother. So I didn't spare him for a minute, because I thought, this is what happened for real. So, but they were really like, how can he proceed his life after this book is published, and everyone will know what he did in our intimacy of the family. And then my sisters also said, but you are, because I write about myself, and then if I write about them, I write about we. So I did things with my mother, and then we did things. But when the we thing happens, it's because they did it. And then my sister said, but it was me who got the wheelchair. And why do you say we got the wheelchair? It was me. And so it looks like I did nothing for mom, but I did a lot for mom. And then we were arguing about who did what, and that it was in the book as if I did most of the things. But then I wrote a new version where I give them more jobs and more to show that they were also doing a lot for our mother. And then the publishing house said, no, that has to be no, the readers are interested in your bond with your mother, not how many times your sister brought her to the doctor. So I take it out again. So there were some versions. And then when the book was published, it got good reviews. And I think the moment that there was the reviews in the press, that they understood what it was. They had to see other people reading it to understand that it was a book, and that it was read in a way it was a novel in a way. It is also a novel. It's autobiographical, but I think people who read it, they don't see me. They see their own family, their own parents, their own body. So it's not about us. And I think they understand it now. And my sisters, they had their partners. they said, okay, to their partners, you can read the book, but every chapter you stop and then I will tell my part of the story. So I think they had also a form of couple therapy.
Yeah.
And then there is the other part, was my father. That was the most difficult because he, in the book, is really, portrayed as abusive. And that was like the real tough thing about writing for me, because he did it several times in our youth. He would manipulate us in a way to think he would kill himself. And it was really the biggest fear I had, that he would kill himself if he read the book and if he would know what I really observed and what I really think of him, because I never told him the truth. I'm always really not having any conflict. My sister hates it because when we are doing a family reunion, I'm like always the one like playing as if nothing is wrong, because I can't stand to bring someone else in unease, but with his writing I would do it like in a big way. So I was feeling sick sometimes writing because I knew maybe I will kill him with this. But it was also really taking back the autonomy of certain decisions and just writing them down and giving him the responsibility for the things he did, and not putting the responsibility in my body, because that was what my body was feeling like. I was so afraid of him, and it's still when I
he partly gave the responsibility to you by showing you what his plans are.
I sent him the book before it was in the shops, so I sent it him weeks before, so he had a chance to read it. And I said, it will be painful, but let's talk about it if you want. And so I really want to open the conversation for the first time in our lives. And then he said, okay, I come to Brussels where I live. We would sit in my house, and I was really afraid. It's bizarre to imagine, but I was really afraid he would come and kill me with a knife or something. So I said to my husband, can you stay in the bedroom and if there is anything, can you help me? Because that was like the amount I was afraid of him, of my father, because I did things in our youth that I really didn't expect from him. And so he came in the door and I saw him standing, and I know from the beginning that he felt ashamed, and that he read it and that we could talk about it, and I wasn't afraid for him anymore. And so that changed everything. The fact that I took the autonomy and that I wrote like against my biggest fear of losing him, and he stayed. It really reshaped our relationship. And then we had a big conversation with my siblings and him, because they also want to talk about the book and they also wanted to see him. Like,
a lot of family meetings were going on.
We just had like one conversation about it with him, and just that my siblings said, but Dad, this is really how we spend our youth, and you have a different idea about it, because that was a reaction of my father. He said, it's not what you're right. He said, it's not how I felt it. But then I'm like, but you were a grown up, and most of the time you were like totally drunk. So how would you remember these things in the same way as me as a child? And so that was a little bit the conversation that I said, you can have your version of the past and I have my version. But for me, it's also nice to know that my version is the same as my siblings' versions. If they would have told me like, oh, you are really exaggerating, or this is not true, I would like believe them. But I think there is like this it's quite honest, but he doesn't have to say like that he agrees on it. It's just two different versions of the reality.
Yeah, and maybe it must be kept like this, so each next to each other.
Yeah. And for me, it's okay. And my siblings, they had the chance to tell our father like, this is also, the book is also how we felt it. So, and he said, okay, I'm sorry that you felt it this way. And this was the only thing that needed to happen to get like, I think, to restore certain things in this relationship. So since then we have done some family reunions, go to the zoo with him. He has a little bit better bond with his grandchild. So things have changed for him. Yeah. So the book didn't destroy him in a way.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah. I also think, and because now I'm really talking a lot about it, but he worked, my father, that's really bizarre. The guy who wanted to commit suicide now works as a free he does free work for when people call to the suicide line, and he's answering the phone. And so he thought, when this book will come out, I won't be able to work there anymore, because people will read how I did this with my children, and then. But there they said, like, no, because you have like
The experience and the other
yourself, you are
perspective.
maybe
Yeah.
even in a better place to answer these phones now.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he wasn't thrown out everywhere, like he got a second chance as a person,
Yeah.
that helps, I think, because no one is bad, or no one, like, I think he was a very good man. He just had like a very deprived and bad marriage with my mother that made him do things that he would never have done if he was happily married and receiving enough confirmation in his marriage. So.
But of course, still, he as an adult, he has the responsibility for his actions. Of course.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's nice that it was painful, made kind of a connection in the family.
Yeah.
Maybe we can return to the body again a little bit, because we have a last beautiful reading part. In this part, I would say I would read that as a kind of an associative flow of body memories. Would you second that?
Yeah, the book is quite associative
Yeah.
written, because in a body there are a lot of things that come together, that intertwine. Sometimes even past and present mingles up to something new. So the body is like a very strange spatial thing also, I think.
Yeah.
And I wrote it in an how do you say it? Like associative
Associative.
way. Yeah, and I think this is a little bit like mingling up the language, like the feeling, the existing,
Yeah.
the shame.
So let's listen to Jane for another part.
Mond, 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 Brose, 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 Fisch, 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 Nervensäge, sagst du. Hör auf mit dem Gefummel, du verunstaltest dich selbst, davon behältst du Narben. Unter meinem Pult schreibe ich mit dem Zeigefinger jedes Wort auf meinen Oberschenkel, das die Lehrerin im 3. Schuljahr ausspricht. Spiel nicht mit deinem Haar, das ist die letzte Warnung, sagt der Lehrer in der 4. Klasse. Und dieses Mal stellt er sich mit einer Schere in der Hand hinter mich, als ich mich über mein Heft beuge. Er droht, die Locke abzuschneiden, sobald sie wieder um meinen Zeigefinger gezwirbelt wird. Ich drücke meine Pobacken zusammen und entspanne sie wieder. Drücke sie zusammen und entspanne sie wieder. Zusammendrücken, entspannen. Der Rhythmus muss schneller als mein Herzschlag sein. Schaukel nicht so auf deinem Stuhl herum, sagt Juv, große Gret. Sie steht vor der Klasse. Sie ist 2 Köpfe größer als Juv, kleine Gret. Ich würde beide Juv und Gret gern miteinander vermengen, dann hätte man die ideale Mutter. Mit dem Rhythmus aufzuhören geht nicht, denn ich mache es nicht bewusst. Die Neigung dazu kommt anfallsweise mehrmals am Tag. Ich bin ein Eimer voller Unruhe, der manchmal überläuft. Ich muss mich vorn hinter das Pult von Juv große Gret stellen, auf ihren Platz. Der ganzen Klasse wird aufgetragen, auf den Stühlen zu schaukeln, meine Nervosität nachzuahmen, damit ich mal sehen kann, wie das ist. Allseits Gekicher. Ich sehe es, all die wippenden Köpfe zwischen den Pulten, als wäre es lauter Fahrgäste in einem über eine Kopfsteinstraße holpernden Bus. Wollen wir um die Wette Po zusammenkneifen machen? Frage ich die Mädchen auf dem Schulhof. Mein kann ich mit einem Druck auf den inneren Knopf steinhart machen. Nach einer Weile hat keiner von ihnen mehr Lust dazu. Steck deinen Finger mal dazwischen und dann musst du versuchen, ihn wieder rauszuziehen, sage ich zu Martin, 20 Jahre später. Wollen wir mal eine Nuss damit knacken? Ich lerne, einen Tick zu unterdrücken aus Angst vor Ablehnung. Ich lerne, den Vulkan zuzustopfen aus Angst, dass die Juv mich wieder nach vorne stellt. Doch dann verschiebt und verlagert sich der glühende, brodelnde, heiße Magmakern, um an anderer Stelle wieder auszutreten. den nächsten Körperteil zum Ausbruch zu bringen. Die Muskeln in meinen Waden ziehe ich zusammen, während ich meine Fußknöchel nach innen drücke. Dann lasse ich los. Und noch einmal. Zusammenziehen und drücken, loslassen. Zusammenziehen und drücken, loslassen. Das Tempo muss jetzt 5-mal höher liegen als mein Herzschlag, bis die Mitsitzenden am Tisch die Platte festhalten, weil ihr Getränk über den Glasrand schwappt. Wippen, fummeln, zupfen, kratzen. Der von Menschen benutzte Wortschatz reicht nicht aus. Sprache sitzt wie eine zu stramme Hülle über meine Unruhe. Zweisilbige Wörter sind sowieso zu knapp, um den brennenden Drang zum Bewegen akkurat genug wiederzugeben. Daher rumgautschen, rumschuckeln, rumzappeln, rumkippeln. Versehentlich entdecke ich die Wirkung von Sekundenkleber auf meiner Haut. Erst wird sie extrem heiß, als würde sie gleich in Flammen stehen, doch es entpuppt sich als unsichtbares, harmloses Feuerchen. Denn es tut nicht weh. Nichts geht wirklich in Flammen auf. Hinterher ist eine kleine Stelle entstanden, die super hart und völlig gefühllos ist und zum Zupfen einlädt. Es geht in einem Rutsch ab, hat bereits die Generalprobe überstanden, wie es sich lösen muss. Die funkelnagelneue Haut, die zum Vorschein kommt, rosa und ohne Hornhaut, sagt Hallo. Toll ist das, eine Anti-Restaurierung. Gerade weil ich denke, das sollte ich besser nicht machen, will ich es machen. Oh, Lize, du blutest, sagt Len. Wusstest du, dass die Lippen von Labello noch mehr austrocknen? Sagt jemand auf dem Hof der weiterführenden Schule. Pass auf, das ist Herpes, sagt Papa beim Familienfest. Ständig zupfe ich an meinen Lippen herum. Während des Unterrichts, bei Tisch, bei einer schriftlichen Prüfung, beim Radfahren, beim Eisessen. Sobald ich eine Hand frei habe, zupft sie an Häutchen herum, bis ich Blut schmecke. Und selbst dann mache ich weiter, noch ein Stückchen und noch ein Stückchen. Nichts darf unbearbeitet bleiben, nichts lose herumhängen. Doch je mehr man zieht, umso mehr geht ab. Schau doch mal in den Spiegel, sagst du. Wie sieht das denn aus? Das wirst du noch bereuen, glaub mir. Aber nein, ich bereue es nicht. Jetzt nicht, später nicht. Was kümmert mich Narben, wenn es eine kleine Wunde zu machen mir solch ein Wonnegefühl schenkt? So ein krustiger, schilfriger Mund, natürlich ist das nicht schön, aber es geht nicht um Schönheit, sondern darum, was nicht oberflächlich ist und das, was darunter im Zaum gehalten wird. Du kaufst weiter Doppelpackungen Labello, bis ich in jedem Rucksack und jeder Jacken- und Hosentasche so einen Stift habe. Mein Gesicht in dieser Zeit auf Fotos, ein aufgedunsener Teenagerkopf, eine von kleinen Wunden umgebene Nase, ein Mund, dessen Umriss bizarr und lediert ist, wie ein zu feuchtes Aquarell, das an einem windigen Tag zum Trocknen an die Wäscheleine gehängt worden ist.
I do believe that the body has a response from reflex than that you can like choose yourself how the body reacts, and also that memories are really stored without you wanting it. So you can try to have the power of your head in controlling it, but still the body also has its own way of connecting and remembering. And I think the book is often also quite hard. That's the way I use my body in a way. I think it's normal if you see like a mother and a father who are really self-deconstructive, that it's hard as a child to love your own body, but also to feel not guilty taking care of it. So I remember I've seen in my book that my mother burns herself while she's like doing, like she's throwing, like putting away the water, the boiling water from potatoes. She like gets it on her stomach, and then she doesn't go to search help. She just like goes sit at the table with this burning wound and never like really goes to the doctor with it. so this was a little bit of the example of how you would like take care of yourself. And I think writing is not I don't know, writing is the thing that really happens with your head. So it's not that by writing you give your body a way of existing, or like the possibility of exist without shame, without guilt. I don't think writing is for me capable of doing that. Otherwise I would not be still I still not easily take care of my own body. I find it really difficult. The only thing I like is going to the Thai massage because they really make you feel pain. Like it's not like it's a way of self-care that is also that. But I know I don't think that the magical solution was writing about it, because it didn't help anything. It's just the fact that I wrote about it and I made it into something nicer in literature, that it served a nice goal, but it's not that it went away. And I have to say that my siblings have the same. I think if you are confronted with a parent, as we did, for example, my brother, he always pulls out the hairs on his eyes, for example. Still till today, he has like the reflex to do it. And my other sister, she has an eating disorder, for example. That's also a way of not being able to take care of your body in a good way. So I think that is how a body that is deprived from things like emotional support or love, like we were never touched by our parents in a nice way. It was only like when we had like the little fleas in our hair, like how it's got lysis, that they would like, I really loved it when I had lysis, because then you would have been touched. So it was not like we were not made at ease in our bodies. And writing didn't really changed it. I think it's like something I need to solve it in another way. I'm not still there, I think.
Maybe it would be too easy if it's just like that. But I'm still glad that you write the book, because we can read it now, and that's a big gift, I think.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. If you have any questions, now it's the time to speak up.
Yes, hello. One question. What's your mother's mother like?
Good question. My mother's mother came by when she was dying, and she found it she was sad because she would outlive her daughter. So she was more sad for herself than for my mom, who was dying. That is like my grandmother in a definition. I think she is quite egoistic, and she is I think my mother resembles my grandmother a lot by the fact that she's always negative about the first thing you do when you enter somewhere. It's saying something negative, like how. And I think my mom in her life never heard anything positive when she was growing up. And so I think that is the way of motherhood that she knew, and that's the way she gave to us without really choosing it, I think. So yeah, I don't know. I think you should not compliment your children all the time, but sometimes it's nice to have a compliment. And I got only once like a compliment of my mom when she was like coming to a reading of me, and she sent a message like, okay, well done. And then I knew I had done something really bad, because she would never say it was good. And I think, my grandmother was kind of away, and she, there was a lot of addiction in my family. I think my mother also grew up in a family where there was a lot of alcohol abuse, not so severely, but still I think there was, that was not always easy for her. So I really see like that she didn't had a very good example herself. So I think also now I ask my mother like how it was for her to be a mother, and she said in the time I was giving birth, I was really on my own. There was no internet. I was moved to a small village. She moved away very far from her parents, so they weren't there in our youth. She did everything on her own with 4 children. She stayed at home, but I have never spent a holiday with my grandparents, for example, or they never babysitted on us. And I think she if she would have been a mother now, she could have searched on the internet some things, but it was not there in her in the moment she was like 20, 30 and having children. So it's also now things changed in a better way, that there is a big community for mothers. It's not a taboo to search for psychical help, I think. So yeah, if my mother would have been a mother of this generation and my grandmother would maybe be a mother in this generation, it would help them a lot, I think, to be more open and to find themselves a little bit softened.
Hi, thank you, first of all, for putting things and words that are so personal to you, translating them, but maybe also translating things for so many people. It was so beautiful to listen to you also, like, negotiating with yourself what is the space of the daughter and the writer right now, but that is in the moment of experiencing it. And I would love if you like to hear a bit more, how was the process of writing and finding language? Then you talked about it already a bit, but I would love to hear it a bit more, because the way we got to know you right now is that you, I think, have a very impressive way of balancing care, kindness, reality, humor, like all these elements. And I assume, but maybe I'm speculating too much, that you maybe wanted also to prevent, to have a, what's the English term? To elevate it in a literary way, maybe go into, you know, to find a language that maybe transports you away from what you were trying to get closer. And I would love to hear a bit more about this process, how it was, you know, translating this intimacy into language. Yeah.
I think for me, for this book, I try to be as clear as possible, and also as honest as possible. But honesty is not only in what you tell or what you write, it's also how you tell or you write it. And I also thought, like, there are so many therapeutic books, but often like the self-help books, they use a language for me that is too clichématic, and it doesn't help me to feel it, because there are cliches, and cliches are made for us to like take like the like a route that we already know, so we stop looking around and finding new languages for things, or a new like metaphors for things we already know, but rephrase them in a different way, for me makes it's like a way also of helping other people finding words to describe things they feel, but then see it in a different way, having another metaphor to use when you talk about the body, for example. We all know the image of the bucket who is full and the last drop comes in, and then that's like a nice metaphor, but it's always like fine to find a new metaphor to have exactly the same, so people have something new to read and also to feel. How would say, like, to feel comforted by. So language for me, this book, I wanted it to distress people, to show really how difficult life can be, but also giving a language that would at the same time making the reader feel comfortable. So there is like a kind, like a bizarre tension, I think, in the book. And then thinking, I thought about, should I not take more distance? Should I not wait 10 years and then write about my mother? Because what do I know about life myself? And I don't have children, so how can I write about her now? But then there is, in the moment of grief, in the moment you are losing someone, I don't know if someone recognizes this, but there is this moment when it's really a physical thing, and it felt a bit like there were a lot of little doors opening in my body, things I could remember of my mother that I never thought of. Also, there was a language coming above in my head, like words from when I was a child, but also it as if I was 8 Lises at the same time, and there were like smaller versions of me also say goodbye to my mother, and they brought their own memories with them. And so I just wrote without too much thinking about it, with pressing away the shame and the guilt and everything that goes around it, and just writing down what all these other Lises would give me to think about my mother. And after my mother died, and then you have like this period where it's really painful, and then the doors close again, and you can't reach the same feeling again. So I'm so happy that I did it, that I wrote it so directly on the moment of things that changed, because how more you get distance from something, how easier it is to forget the details, and in the details often is the biggest horror, I think. Yeah. So now, if I would write now about my mother dying, I would not. I only remember the things that I wrote down in my book, but I would like write it in a more general way, I think. And the fact that I didn't do it in a general way, yeah, makes like this book. And I don't know if this was an answer, but I did it. How did I do it? Writing when the doors were still open. And if I would have waited, it would have been another book, but maybe also a nice one, I don't know, but a totally different book.
Thank you, Lize, for this wonderful talk. You described it as if the process of writing the book was a very painful one at times, like one that included a lot of fear and guilt, but also sadness and loneliness. And I guess my question is if there were also moments of joy writing or researching this that you could talk about.
Yeah, I don't describe these 2 years of the writing process as really bad, guilt and shame. These are bad feelings, but still, the fact that you write and the fact that there is language for everything you feel is giving so much joy that I would look back on these 2 years as like such a nice period of my life. Even I was losing my mom. It's like language is, I think, the best place to hide and to flee in and to play with. So I felt very alive while writing this book. I felt very human because language is also a way of communicating, and while writing, you can already think about the people on the other side of the thing you make. So I was feeling as if I was there with 100 people who would read the book. My publishers were already there in the room when my mother was dying, because I knew they would read what I would write about. They would have to, because they needed to correct the book. So it made me not lonely. It made me feeling surrounded by all of you, because now you're here. So I know, like, you project yourself already in the future, already as a writer who is never alone, and who is like also giving readers the feeling that they are not alone. So it's like working in all different ways. So I would say the fact that the idea that it was like painful these 2 years is maybe I didn't express enough how much writing gives me. It's everything I've got. So and I have a cat and a husband, and I have like but writing is like the biggest thing in life. So I wasn't lonely.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing this evening with us. Thank you, Jane, for reading, and everybody here from the gallery for having us. And I wish you a nice evening. Goodbye.